So you got a raise this year, maybe the biggest one in a while, but does it feel like your life somehow got smaller? You look at your bank account after paying for rent, groceries, and gas, and the math just isn't mathing. You're paying more for everything, but you have less breathing room, less of a future. You might blame it all on that one number you see on the news, inflation. But what if that's not the real story? What if the feeling that you're falling behind isn't just bad luck, but a feature of a hidden system rigging the economy against you? In this video, we'll expose the real reasons your life feels more expensive, even when the headlines say inflation is cooling down. This isn't just about the price of your groceries, this is about the price of your life. The story of Sarah. Let's talk about Sarah. She isn't a real person, but her story is the story of millions. Sarah is a hard worker, reliable, and this year she even got a decent pay bump. But her rent has shot up by a third in just the last few years. The cost of groceries feels like a punch to the gut. A savings account? That feels like a fantasy. The news tells her that inflation is under control, maybe 2 or 3%. So why does she feel like she's sinking? Why is the gap between her income and her ability to simply live growing wider every single day? Her struggle is the central paradox of our economy, but it's not a paradox, it's by design. And today, we're going to explain the rules of the game. That feeling is undeniable, isn't it? The Zillow search that starts as an exciting dream and ends in despair. The slow, creeping realization that the goalposts for a stable life haven't just moved, they've been airlifted to another planet. This isn't just a feeling, it's a divergence, and it's mathematically real. Think of it like this. For decades, you were told that if you just run fast enough, work hard, get skilled, you can win the race. But what if, while you were running your heart out, a handful of competitors were allowed to ride a bullet train on a parallel path? That's our economy today. Your hard work gets you a 4% raise. That's you running faster. But the cost of the assets that actually build wealth, a home, a stock portfolio, are on that bullet train, accelerating at 10%, 20%, or even more in a single year. Now, some of this asset growth does reflect genuine economic value creation. Companies innovate, productivity increases, real wealth is built. But a disproportionate share is driven by financial forces completely disconnected from the productive economy, forces that leave wage earners further and further behind. You can never outrun that train. This isn't just about the rich getting richer, it's about the price of admission to a secure life becoming impossibly high. The wealthiest 1% in America now control roughly 32% of all wealth, more than the entire bottom 90% combined. And this concentration has accelerated dramatically since 2008, when central banks began their era of unprecedented monetary intervention. You're not imagining it. You're not failing. You're running a race where the rules changed, but nobody told you. So where does the fuel for those bullet trains come from? Let's follow the money. Section 2. The Two Economies. Here's the secret. You're living in two separate economies, but you're only ever told about one. The first is the consumer price economy. This is what the news calls inflation. It measures the price change in a basket of things you consume: gas, bread, movie tickets. When they say inflation is 3%, they're talking about the average cost of that basket. And while that stings, it doesn't explain why you feel so squeezed. But there's a second economy running in parallel, one that rarely makes headlines but has a far greater impact on your financial future. This is the economy of asset inflation. Assets aren't things you consume, they're things you own to build wealth. Houses, stocks, bonds. Yes, many Americans do own some of these through retirement accounts or home equity, but the scale of ownership varies enormously, and the inflation rate in this economy isn't 3%. It has been astronomically higher. Imagine your country has two weather reports. The official one says, today is a mild 72 degrees. That's consumer inflation. Seems manageable. But a second hidden report says the ground you're standing on is 400 degrees. You're being told the weather is pleasant while your feet are burning. That's the disconnect. For the last 2 decades, whenever the economy sputtered, central banks responded with the same playbook. Cut interest rates to near zero and inject massive amounts of new money into the financial system through bond purchases, what they call quantitative easing. But here's what they don't emphasize. This new money doesn't flow evenly through the economy. It doesn't show up as an extra $100 in your paycheck. Instead, it enters through the financial system first, major banks, institutional investors, and those with existing capital. These players, flush with cheap credit, deploy that money into assets. They buy apartment complexes. They buy stock portfolios. They buy anything that holds value. This flood of money chasing a relatively fixed supply of high-quality assets creates intense bidding wars. Prices skyrocket. That is asset inflation. So while Sarah's paycheck tied to the consumer economy struggles to keep pace with 3% official inflation, the median home price in her city has jumped from $280,000 to $400,000 in just 6 years, a 43% increase. The system has created a chasm between the value of labor and the value of ownership. And this isn't an accident. It's the result of specific mechanisms built into our modern economy. Let me show you how the machine works. Section 3. The Machine. 4 hidden mechanisms. The system squeezing you operates through 4 interlocking mechanisms. Think of them as gears in a machine. Each one turns the others, and together they create the pressure you feel every day. Mechanism 1. Financialization. This is the process of transforming your basic needs, housing, healthcare, education, into tradable financial instruments, engineered to generate returns for distant investors. Your life has been securitized. Housing is the clearest example. For your grandparents, a house was primarily shelter, a place to build a life. Today, institutional investors treat housing as an asset class, like treasury bonds or commodities. Private equity firms and institutional investors now own over 600,000 single-family rental homes in the United States, nearly triple what they controlled a decade ago. These aren't mom-and-pop landlords. These are entities managing billions in capital, fueled by that cheap money from central banks. Their goal isn't to provide affordable shelter. Their legal obligation is to maximize returns for shareholders. That means extracting the highest possible rent, minimizing maintenance costs, and resisting tenant protections. You're not a resident. You're a yield generator on a quarterly earnings report. Your roof over your head has become a financial instrument, and its price is now set not by what local workers can afford, but by the return expectations of global capital. This is why Sarah's rent went up by 1/3. Her building wasn't just sold to a new owner, it was acquired by a real estate investment trust, optimizing for institutional returns. Mechanism 2. The Geopolitical Tax. For 40 years, the global economy operated on a simple principle: efficiency above all else. Companies sourced components from wherever costs were lowest, building supply chains that spanned continents. This era of hyper-globalization delivered cheap electronics, affordable clothing, and low consumer prices. That era is over. We've entered a new phase, defined not by economic efficiency, but by strategic control. A shift from just-in-time to just-in-case. Call it the geopolitical tax. The primary driver is the intensifying U.S.-China rivalry, but it extends to semiconductors, rare earth minerals, pharmaceuticals, and critical technologies. This isn't a hot war. It's fought with tariffs, export controls, sanctions, and industrial policy. Here's how it hits your wallet. Imagine a company manufactured your smartphone for $800 using an advanced chip from Taiwan, but new export restrictions now prohibit using that chip. The company must pivot to a less efficient alternative from a friendly nation, adding $100 in costs. Your phone looks identical, performs slightly worse, but costs $900. That extra $100 isn't buying you better technology, it's buying geopolitical security, and you're footing the bill.
It's a hidden tax on nearly every manufactured good, from cars to computers to medical devices. Multiply this across thousands of products, and you're paying a strategic premium on much of what you buy, a permanent drag on your purchasing power in the name of national security.
Mechanism 3. The currency dilution engine. This is the foundation underlying everything else. The systematic erosion of your money's value through debt monetization. Here's the cycle. Governments consistently spend beyond what they collect in taxes. To cover the shortfall, they issue bonds, essentially IOUs. To prevent interest rates from spiking and choking the economy, central banks step in. They create new money electronically and use it to purchase these government bonds. This is the printing press, though no physical bills are involved. Every new dollar created dilutes the value of every existing dollar. It's a mathematical inevitability. Think of the economy as a pizza cut into 10 slices. You own one slice. Then the baker adds more dough and recuts the pizza into 20 slices. You still hold one slice, but your share of the total pizza just got cut in half. That's currency dilution. If you have $10,000 in savings and the central bank creates trillions in new currency, your $10,000 now commands a smaller share of the economy's total purchasing power. Your savings didn't disappear. They were quietly devalued. This is a hidden tax on savers, a transfer of real purchasing power from those who hold currency to those who receive the new money first. And who receives it first? The government, which can now spend more than it earns, and the financial institutions that sell bonds to the central bank then deploy that fresh capital into assets, fueling the very asset inflation we discussed. It's a loop. Currency dilution enables asset inflation, which further widens the gap between earners and owners. This is why inflation, even at just 3%, feels so much worse than it sounds. Your wages might rise 3%, but the purchasing power of your savings falls, and the assets you need to build wealth leap ahead at double or triple that rate. Mechanism 4. The platform skim. The final mechanism is the most modern and perhaps the most invisible. A vast, decentralized toll system embedded in the digital economy. Every day, you interact with digital platforms that have positioned themselves as indispensable intermediaries. You don't think about them as tax collectors, but that's functionally what they are. You buy coffee with a card. The payment processor takes 2 to 3%. You order lunch delivery. The app charges the restaurant up to 30%. You book a ride. The platform keeps 25%. You sell a used item online. The marketplace takes 10 to 15%. Your small business accepts digital payments, another 2.9% plus fees. Individually, these percentages seem trivial. Collectively, they represent one of the largest wealth transfers in modern commerce. These platforms process trillions in annual transactions. Even a 2% skin on that volume amounts to tens of billions extracted from the productive economy and funneled to a handful of technology companies. This skim doesn't improve the product or service, it's rent-seeking, charging fees simply for controlling the gateway. And it compounds the squeeze. Small businesses have thinner margins, making it harder to raise wages. Consumers pay slightly more for everything. Meanwhile, platform profits flow to shareholders, fueling more asset purchases and inequality. It's the perfect closing mechanism. After the currency is diluted, after assets inflate, after financialization transforms your rent into an investment vehicle, and after geopolitical tensions raise prices, the platform skim takes one last cut on the way out. These 4 mechanisms, financialization, the geopolitical tax, currency dilution, and the platform skim, aren't separate problems. They're an interlocking system. Currency dilution, mechanism 3, provides the cheap money that fuels asset inflation, which enables financialization, mechanism 1, of your housing and necessities. The geopolitical tax, mechanism 2, adds unavoidable costs to goods, and the platform skim extracts value at every transaction. This is the machine, and it is working exactly as designed.
If this framework is helping you see the economy more clearly, subscribe now. We're building a series that decodes the hidden forces shaping your financial reality, and in future videos, we'll explore how to navigate them.
Section 4. Why you feel poor. So let's come back to the question. Why do you feel poor even when your salary goes up? It's not just because groceries cost more. The inflation number you see on the news is real, but it's only a fraction of the story. Maybe 30% of what you're actually experiencing. You feel poor because you're earning in a currency being systematically diluted, while the assets required for financial security are being inflated by forces you don't control. You feel poor because your home, your largest expense and potentially your largest asset, has been transformed from shelter into a financial instrument optimized for investor returns, not human affordability. You feel poor because the global economy has shifted from efficiency to strategic security, adding a hidden tax to thousands of products in your life. And you feel poor because the digital economy skims a percentage off nearly everything you touch, funneling wealth to a concentrated group of gatekeepers. The purpose of this video isn't to depress you or to offer false hope. It's to give you something more valuable than optimism: clarity. For too long, you've been told that if you're struggling, it's because you're not working hard enough, not smart enough with money, not skilled enough for the market. That's not just wrong, it's a convenient lie that protects the system. Your struggle is not a personal failure, it's a systemic outcome. The game has been restructured, and most players were never told. Understanding this doesn't immediately solve your problems, but it does something crucial. It moves the problem from your character to the system. And once you see the system clearly, you can start making better decisions within it. In future videos, we'll explore exactly that: how to build wealth when the rules have changed, which strategies still work, and which ones are relics of an economy that no longer exists. But first, you needed to see the game clearly. If this helped you see the bigger picture, share it with someone who's feeling the same squeeze, and subscribe because we are just getting started. Disclaimer: this video presents one analytical framework for understanding wealth inequality in modern economies. Economic systems are complex, and reasonable analysts may interpret data differently. We encourage you to seek multiple perspectives and conduct your own research. Key sources and data are available in the description.